Have you ever loved someone who seemed to hold you close only to pull away the moment you drew near? Someone who watched you with quiet intensity but spoke as if feelings were a foreign language? This is the paradox of the avoidant heart, a love that hides behind silence, a longing that fears its own depth, a soul that wants to be held but trembles at the thought of being seen. Avoidants communicate through caution, not confession, because for them love is never a simple expression of affection. It is a territory filled with potential danger. Their instinct is not to reveal, but to protect, not to reach out, but to retreat into the safety of solitude. To understand an avoidant is to understand that their language of love is written in hesitation. They will rarely say, "I love you," in the way others do. Instead, they might ask subtle questions, make careful observations, or linger in your presence longer than they mean to. Every word they choose carries the weight of fear disguised as control. Their silence is not emptiness, but a test, an unspoken inquiry into whether you will remain even when they pull away. An avoidant personality often develops from early experiences where vulnerability led to disappointment or emotional neglect. For such individuals, closeness is associated not with comfort but with pain. When they begin to care for someone deeply, their instincts become divided. One side yearns for intimacy, while the other fears being consumed by it. This duality forces them to speak indirectly, to use caution as a form of communication. They will measure your reactions to small disclosures, watching carefully to see if you will judge them, pity them, or invade their inner world. Every question they ask is coded. What seems like curiosity is often self-protection. When an avoidant asks a question, it is never casual. It carries layers of emotional significance that are easy to miss unless you listen beyond the surface. They might ask, "Are you happy with me?" Not because they seek validation, but because they fear abandonment. They might ask, "What do you like about me?" because they cannot yet believe they are likable. These questions are small openings in a fortress they built long ago. To others, they may appear emotionally distant, but to the avoidant, asking even the simplest question is an act of courage, a quiet rebellion against their own defenses. The cautious tone of their communication also reveals how they perceive relationships as potential threats to their independence. To love someone, in their mind, means to risk losing control. Therefore, their affection often arrives in paradoxes. They withdraw after moments of closeness, change the subject after emotional intimacy, or downplay their feelings as jokes. Yet behind all of this, they are observing, analyzing, and longing. They ask not to expose themselves, but to see if you can read what they cannot say. Their questions become the bridge between fear and connection, a way to test if love can coexist with their need for emotional safety. Their communication is cautious because it must be. If they were to confess their feelings outright, the emotional intensity might overwhelm them. So instead, they ask questions as a softer way of approaching love, like someone standing on the shore of a vast ocean, dipping their toes in to test the temperature before stepping further. Through this subtle questioning, they are mapping your emotional landscape, trying to understand whether you will stay calm when they retreat, whether you will chase or wait, whether you can handle the rhythm of their push and pull. In these moments, their caution is not a lack of feeling, but a reflection of its depth. The avoidant does not know how to express love without fear, so they rely on patterns of control that give them a sense of safety. Their words become a shield that allows them to connect without collapsing. When they ask, when they pause, when they hesitate, it is all communication. They are saying, "I want to trust you, but I need to know it's safe first." To love an avoidant is to recognize this delicate balance. Their silence speaks, their restraint reveals, and their caution is not rejection. It is the only way they know how to love without losing themselves. When an avoidant begins to ask questions that reveal their curiosity about your emotions or intentions, it signals a quiet breakthrough in their guarded inner world. For someone who has built emotional distance as a means of survival, questioning is not a casual act. It is a moment of exposure, a trembling attempt to peek beyond their walls. They have spent much of their lives believing that closeness equals danger and vulnerability invites pain. Yet when they start to ask, "What do you think of me?" or "Do you ever miss me when I'm gone?" they are testing whether the connection they fear might also be the one they crave. Each question becomes a confession disguised as curiosity, an unspoken way of saying, "I want to know if I matter." Avoidants carry a deep, often unconscious belief that love leads to loss. In childhood or past experiences, they may have learned that expressing needs resulted in rejection or emotional punishment. Over time, they trained themselves to appear independent, even indifferent, to avoid that sense of helplessness again. But no one can completely escape the pull of human connection. When someone enters their life who stirs genuine emotion, the conflict within them intensifies. They want to connect but fear the consequences. Their questions become the only safe method of approach, a way to observe intimacy without fully stepping into it. Through these questions, they are not simply seeking information. They are searching for reassurance that being seen will not destroy them. Each time they inquire about your thoughts or feelings, they are fighting against their instinct to retreat. It is a small, invisible act of courage that often goes unnoticed by others. The avoidant's heart speaks in coded language because direct expression feels too risky. A question like, "Do you still think about me?" may sound light or even playful, but underneath lies a trembling vulnerability. It reveals that they care deeply, that they think about you often, but cannot yet bring themselves to admit it. The emotional risk feels unbearable, so they wrap their longing in subtlety. What to others seems like mere curiosity is, for them, the only way to express love without shattering the armor that protects them. When avoidants ask such questions, they are not only exploring you, they are also exploring themselves. Each inquiry becomes a mirror, reflecting their hidden fears and desires. To ask is to momentarily step out of the prison of detachment they have built. It shows they are beginning to trust, even if that trust is fragile. They want to understand what love feels like when it isn't conditional or suffocating. They want to know if their presence brings comfort or burden. The questions they pose are not meant to manipulate, but to measure emotional safety. Beneath every "Why do you care about me?" lies the desperate hope that they are lovable despite their distance. What makes this form of communication so powerful is its subtlety. Avoidants rarely declare love in obvious ways, but their questions contain more honesty than their silence ever could. Asking means they are inviting you into their inner world, a place they usually guard with unyielding vigilance. They are asking for proof, not of your devotion, but of your patience. They want to see if you can listen without demanding, if you can respond without pressing too close. Their questions are small windows through which light begins to enter the darkness of their emotional isolation. In this way, every question they ask becomes a moment of vulnerability wrapped in restraint. It is their heart whispering from behind a locked door, "I'm trying." Their words might seem calm, but inside them there is turbulence, fear, hope, and the faint desire to be understood. When an avoidant begins to ask questions that touch on emotional truth, they are not seeking information. They are seeking safety. Their voice is uncertain, their timing inconsistent, but their intention is pure. They are trying to bridge the impossible distance between love and fear, using the only language they know, questions that reveal everything they are too afraid to say. Love for an avoidant is a constant battle between fear and desire, an internal war where longing collides with self-preservation. Their heart pulls them toward closeness while their mind warns them to run. This conflict is not born from a lack of emotion, but from an overabundance of it. Feelings so deep they become overwhelming. When they begin to care for someone, their nervous system does not interpret love as safety. It interprets it as danger. The idea of being seen, known, or depended upon awakens old wounds, reminding them of moments when vulnerability led to pain or rejection. To protect themselves, they retreat into distance, even when every part of them aches to stay. This is why avoidants often appear confusing to others. They may express affection one day and withdraw the next, alternating between tenderness and indifference. Their behavior is not meant to hurt, but to manage an emotional storm within. They crave the warmth of connection, but fear being consumed by it. When someone gets too close, it triggers a deep, almost primal fear of losing autonomy. To the avoidant, love threatens their sense of control. It feels like stepping into a fire that could either warm them or burn them completely. Yet paradoxically, they cannot fully detach either, because the need for love, though buried, never disappears. Thus, they find themselves trapped between approach and avoidance, constantly reaching and retreating, loving and fearing in equal measure. Each time they fall in love, the same pattern repeats. At first, they are drawn to the emotional intensity, fascinated by the warmth and acceptance they see in another. But as the relationship deepens, their fear awakens. They begin to imagine rejection before it happens, abandonment before it's even threatened. Their mind creates distance to prepare for the pain they believe is inevitable. The more they care, the more they pull away, convinced that love is temporary and fragile. Their withdrawal becomes a defense mechanism, a way to control the uncontrollable. By leaving emotionally before they can be left physically, they protect themselves from heartbreak while ironically ensuring its arrival. Desire for them is not peaceful but chaotic. It exposes their neediness, something they have learned to hide at all costs. To desire is to admit that someone else has power over their emotions, and this realization terrifies them. So they try to suppress it, pretending they are fine alone, that they don't need anyone. But suppression is not the same as freedom. The more they resist their desire, the more powerful it becomes, haunting them in silence, surfacing in dreams, in memories, in the quiet longing for what they believe they cannot have. Their love becomes a ghost they chase but never allow to stay. The avoidant struggle is not about indifference but about survival. Their fear is rooted in the past, yet it controls the present. They are not running from love itself, they are running from the pain they associate with it. When they find someone patient enough to see beyond their defenses, they often experience a deep sense of conflict. One part of them wants to open up, to surrender to trust and connection. The other part warns them that doing so will end in loss. This internal division makes love both beautiful and unbearable for them. They want to be close, but closeness feels like danger. They want to be loved, but love feels like exposure. To love an avoidant is to witness this inner war unfold. It is to see them reach out, then withdraw, to hear them say they don't care while their eyes betray the truth. Beneath their calm or distant exterior lies a heart that wants nothing more than to be safe in love. But safety, to them, has always been uncertain. Every question they ask, every moment they hesitate, is a reflection of this conflict between fear and desire. They are not resisting love because they don't feel it. They are resisting it because they feel it too much. Their greatest battle is not against others, but against the very tenderness that threatens to set them free. When an avoidant becomes curious about your thoughts, your emotions, and the meaning behind your actions, it signals the presence of an inner conflict they cannot easily silence. Their curiosity is not idle or casual. It is the manifestation of a psychological tension that arises when love and fear coexist. On the surface, their questions may appear analytical or detached, but beneath them lies a deep emotional inquiry. They are not asking because they simply want to know you better. They are asking to understand the nature of the risk they are taking by caring for you. Each question becomes a negotiation between their heart and their defenses, between their longing to connect and their instinct to remain untouched. Avoidants are thinkers by necessity. They analyze emotions instead of feeling them fully because analysis offers control. To them, feelings are unpredictable, and unpredictability is unsafe. When they begin to ask questions about you, what you believe, how you feel, why you act the way you do, they are using curiosity as a shield. By intellectualizing their emotions, they keep themselves from drowning in them. Yet, paradoxically, it is through this same curiosity that they begin to inch closer to genuine connection. They observe you carefully, watching your tone, your reactions, the subtle shifts in your energy. Every question they ask is layered with a silent plea. Can I trust you with what I've never shown anyone? Their curiosity also reflects an internal dialogue that never stops. They are constantly questioning themselves. Why do I feel this way? Why do I want this person? Why do I fear what I desire? The act of questioning you is an extension of questioning their own emotional boundaries. When they care about someone, the ground beneath them feels unstable. Their usual detachment no longer protects them. Their emotional walls begin to crack. To regain some sense of stability, they turn to inquiry. They want to understand love logically because understanding it emotionally feels too dangerous. The more questions they ask, the more they are trying to make sense of something that cannot be fully rationalized. What makes their curiosity a sign of love is its persistence. Avoidants do not invest emotional energy in people who do not matter to them. When they start noticing the small details of your life, when they remember your favorite book, ask about your day, or want to know how you interpret things, it means you have entered a place in their mind they rarely allow anyone to reach. Their questions become a bridge between their isolation and the outside world. They are gathering information not just to know you, but to determine whether your presence is safe enough to soften their defenses. Through this process, they are measuring the emotional temperature, checking if vulnerability will be met with acceptance or danger. However, this curiosity often coexists with a quiet fear. Each question brings them closer to the truth that intimacy requires surrender. The more they understand you, the harder it becomes to remain detached. Their mind warns them that attachment could lead to pain, but their heart keeps reaching out through questions, trying to find a path where connection does not equal loss. This tug-of-war creates a strange tension in their behavior. They may ask deeply personal questions one moment and then retreat into silence the next. It is not inconsistency, it is self-preservation. The closer they get to emotional truth, the louder their fear becomes. For an avoidant, curiosity is the language of suppressed affection. They might never say, "I love you," but their need to understand you reveals that they already do. They want to see if you can hold space for both their fear and their desire, if you can listen to their uncertainty without demanding clarity. In their eyes, every question is a risk, a small leap into intimacy disguised as thoughtfulness. They are not seeking control through inquiry, they are seeking safety. Their curiosity is a quiet rebellion against their instinct to withdraw, an attempt to stay connected without being consumed. When they ask, it is their heart's cautious way of saying, "I want to know you, but I'm still learning how to let myself be known." When an avoidant asks questions like, "Do you ever get tired of me?" or "Why do you stay?" these words may sound simple, but they hold a depth of emotion that even they may not fully understand. For the avoidant, such questions are not ordinary. They are coded messages, quiet admissions of fear and hope intertwined. These questions reveal a heart that both doubts and desires love, one that has been shaped by years of emotional restraint. An avoidant rarely expresses affection directly. Instead, they reveal it through uncertainty. Every indirect inquiry is an emotional test, a trembling attempt to confirm that they are still safe within the fragile connection they have allowed to form. To those who love an avoidant, these moments may seem confusing or even frustrating. Why would someone who cares so deeply hide behind questions instead of simply expressing their feelings? The answer lies in their history with vulnerability. Somewhere in their past, the experience of being open led to pain, perhaps rejection, abandonment, or emotional neglect. As a result, they learned that love is not safe, that dependence brings disappointment, and that showing need only invites loss. So they built walls, not out of pride but out of self-protection. Yet no wall is ever perfect. Even behind their defenses, the desire to be loved persists. When this desire becomes too strong to silence, it escapes in the form of subtle questions. These indirect inquiries are acts of emotional bravery. For the avoidant, asking, "Why do you stay?" is not about seeking reassurance. It is about confronting the fear that they are unworthy of being stayed for. It is a hidden way of asking, "Am I lovable even when I pull away, even when I am difficult to reach?" When they ask, they are not doubting you, they are doubting themselves. Their love comes with an undercurrent of self-criticism, a belief that they will eventually disappoint or drive away anyone who gets too close. The question, therefore, becomes their way of asking for evidence that love can survive their defenses. In this indirect communication lies a paradox. The avoidant longs to be understood, yet they cannot bring themselves to be completely transparent. Their questions become their only safe passage into intimacy. It is through inquiry, not declaration, that they reveal the contours of their feelings. They might ask about your preferences, your thoughts on relationships, or your opinion of them. Each question is a quiet reaching out, a small test of how much space they can take without being rejected. They do not realize it consciously, but in asking, they are giving small pieces of themselves away. Their curiosity about your perceptions is really a reflection of their need to be seen in their entirety, flaws and all. What they fear most is being misunderstood or pitied, so they hide their tenderness behind ambiguity. By asking indirect questions, they maintain a sense of control over their exposure. It allows them to feel connected without fully revealing how much they care. Their emotional inquiries are like veiled confessions. Within them lies a longing to hear that they are enough, that their distance does not erase their worth. When they ask, they are hoping to be told, not through words but through presence, that love does not vanish when they falter. An avoidant's love language is subtle and easily overlooked. They may never shower you with declarations, but their questions are their equivalent of saying, "I trust you with a piece of my fear." When they open a window into their insecurity, they are offering something sacred, their vulnerability disguised as curiosity. The truth is, their affection runs deeper than their words can express. They do not ask because they doubt you. They ask because they are learning, often for the first time, that love can coexist with imperfection. When they whisper, "Do you ever get tired of me?" it is not self-pity, but a plea for reassurance that their true self, the one hidden behind silence and distance, is still worthy of being loved. In that question lies the heartbeat of their affection, a love too frightened to speak plainly, yet too powerful to stay unspoken. In the end, to understand an avoidant is to see love in its most fragile form, love that wears armor, love that questions itself before it ever questions you. Their hesitation is not coldness but protection. Their distance is not rejection but survival. When they ask, when they retreat, when they circle around the words they cannot say, It is their way of learning to trust what once hurt them. The avoidant does not love loudly. They love through presence, through small acts of care, through questions that seem uncertain but carry the weight of truth. To love them is to recognize that every pause, every silence, every guarded word is part of a quiet journey towards safety. And when they finally let the walls fall, even just a little, you will see the beauty in what their fear has been hiding all along, a love that is real, raw, and worth the patience it demands.